Russian President Vladimir Putin held his end-of-the-year conference today where he had praised and also a warning for the United States. At the conference, Putin called the move to withdraw U.S. troops from Syria the right decision. The Russian president also agreed with President Trump's assessment that the Islamic State has been defeated in Syria. There are approximately 2,000 American troops on the ground in Syria right now. Russia and the United States have observed an agreement that's enabled the two countries to avoid direct engagement between their forces there. But Putin also warned about the growing threat of nuclear war and said that the situation is being downplayed. This comes after President Trump announced earlier this year his intention to withdraw the U.S. from a Cold War-era nuclear arms treaty. I want to bring in Markos Kounalakis from San Francisco. He's a foreign affairs columnist for McClatchy News and also a visiting fellow at the Hoover Institute. So let's start with Syria. Markos, Vladimir Putin welcoming this withdrawal of U.S. forces. We know he's wanted to have a stronghold there in the Middle East, a huge presence. He's also called the U.S. president illegitimate. Is this a win for him?
Well, yes, it's a win in that it's exactly right what you're saying, Rena. He wants to have an increased influence over the Middle East. He wants to have a presence there. But Putin calling the American presence illegitimate is just such a canard. I mean, who is, in fact, legitimately in Syria? Is it ISIS? Who invited them? Is it Iran? Well, I don't think there was an explicit invitation for Iran to have its militias there and to be moving its troops around Syria. The only way that Russia considers itself there legitimately is that it is a partner with the butcher Assad. And so for them and for Putin to be calling America's presence illegitimate is really just beyond the pale. It's just reprehensible. And one more thing, Rena, as you mentioned, Putin really does have an interest in Syria. They have a naval base in Tartus, which is on the Mediterranean. So, of course, he wants to be there, and he wants to have as much free reign as he can within that country.
We know President Trump tweeted this morning that Russia will be one of the countries that won't be happy about this decision to withdraw. But Putin actually expressed the opposite. Why do you think the president tweeted that?
I have no idea why the president tweets anything, quite frankly. I mean, it is so beyond what is the reality here. Putin is, in fact, very happy about this development. And he said so in this marathon press conference, this annual showcase of all things Putin that he does annually in Moscow, where he stage manages all of the press in front of him, and he's able to speak his mind, but actually promote his and Russia's national interest. So Putin sees it as very favorable. I don't know why President Trump, sees it as something that is actually harmful or really something that makes President Putin unhappy.
Yeah, it's kind of strange. You don't have to be a Syria insider or a foreign affairs expert to know that this was something the Russians would really welcome. I want to also ask you, during this press conference, Putin gave a warning about the threat of nuclear war, and President Trump said that he's considering withdrawing for the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty and even accused Russia of violating the treaty earlier this month. What does the U.S. want Russia to do?
Well, it's uncertain because it seems that what the U.S., meaning the administration, the Congress, the Senate, what they want, and the national security advisors, what they want is not necessarily what Donald Trump wants. I mean, we just saw this with Syria. The president just went against everything that the national security establishment and his advisors, his personal advisors, handpicked, have advised them to do. So when you ask me what does the United States want, well, it's unclear because on the one hand, they may express an interest in something, in this case, the desire to try and hold Russia to task on its nuclear armaments and on its medium-range missiles. But on the other hand, the president may decide something else tomorrow. So we have to clarify what it is, in fact, we're talking about. But the real point here on these missiles is that what Russia sees as a legitimate nuclear range missile is something that we see within the treaty as illegitimate. Mm-hmm. And Putin would like us not to break this treaty.
Putin also said he's uncertain that he'll meet face-to-face with President Trump. He wants the U.S. and Russia relations to normalize. Do you see these two men sitting down, and what is the current state of U.S. And I'm talking about the White House and Russian relations at this point.
Right. Well, so they're complicated, right? I mean, it depends on what the president perceives as Robert Mueller's activity. It depends on what Michael Cohen is saying and Michael Flynn and all these other players in what is currently seen as the drama between Russia and the United States. But the United States government, in its consistency with Russia policy, is maintaining sanctions, is putting pressure on, and actually does not see, according to John Bolton, does not see an opening for that relationship to devolve or for that summit between President Trump and President Putin. Firstly, because Russia is still holding Ukrainian sailors that they arrested and actually some whom they killed during this scuffle in the Black Sea. So if it were up to everybody but Donald Trump, then we would not have that summit. Ask Donald Trump tomorrow.
Markos Kounalakis, much to watch out for in the coming days. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.